we, in conjunction with the local Catholic Church, some other local charity organizations, and it's named El Sol after a gentleman named Sol Silverman, who a lot of you probably know, who was a community activist, probably not unlike yourselves. And so we've gotten national recognition for this program. Now, I haven't always enjoyed, or I haven't always agreed with the Palm Beach Post, but they've been a tremendous advocate for Jupiter Town Council and us, kind of lending support behind this El Sol Resource Center. A few other communities have tried, pretty much unsuccessfully, to duplicate it, and you could probably pick apart each one of those as to why individually it didn't happen or didn't happen. But I've actually been very appreciative of the Palm Beach Post from a local level. But I don't think, I'm not sure I'm qualified to speak as to how they handled whether President Obama handling immigration on his own would necessarily be. I'll be interested to hear Randy's response to that. Okay.
Yeah, I will too, but thanks for the local perspective, that's great. And Congressman Deutch, you're a member of Congress. President Obama is saying that he'll act if you don't.
Right. He did, and in fact, he already has. But it's not. This is not a question of the imperial presidency. This is a question of having been forced as president to deal with a Congress that has refused to deal with an issue that everyone knows we have to address. Everyone understands. Community activists, the business community, immigration activists, all understand that we have to take action to figure out how we're going to address the fact that there are 11 million people who are living in this country who are undocumented. So the president can wait for Congress to act, or in this case, use the law as it currently exists and decide how to enforce that law. That's what the president's already done. Looking ahead, I'm sure the administration is going to continue to look for ways to choose how to enforce the law, even as he works with Congress, hopefully, finally, in a bipartisan way, to come up with legislation that will meaningfully and comprehensively address the immigration system.
Okay, so you're saying that he would enforce laws that already exist, he wasn't necessarily saying that he's going to write the law. Okay. Randy?
Yes, the paper did wonderfully in that. Again, I'll echo the thanks to everybody who put this together, and what a shame we can't be having this discussion out in St. Loxahatchee Groves, where I'm sure it'll be welcomed quite well. The headline made the point that Obama is jawboning the Congress. There are some things he can do through executive order, but he obviously cannot rewrite laws himself, and I think he realizes that he can. But he is nudging to be kind and pushing if you're not so kind, because he doesn't want the momentum to get stalled. And this could all be part of a great plan where Obama casts his version as something spooky and awful and terrible, and look, it comes from the Marxist. And so anything else looks good. It's sort of like that great line in Annie Hall where Woody Allen says the world's divided into the miserable and the horrible is like maimed and cruel and leprosy, and miserable is everybody else. So that way miserable looks good. So no, I think Obama knows exactly what he can and can't do. And the story, the headline reflected that act could mean anything from doing things on his own, as he did before the election with the additional 2-year cushion on deportation, or just putting out his own plan and throwing it out there and saying, right, Congressman Deutch and all your colleagues, beat that.
Fair enough. Well said. Question number 3 of 6 total questions. The midterm election scheduled for 2014 and the general election for 2016. What can citizens be doing in between elections to ensure better government? Dr. O'Flannery Anderson?
Thank you all very much for letting me be here. I feel very humbled to be on a panel with such great ladies and gentlemen, and it's very special to always be at Palm Beach State College, so thank you first. There's so many things we can do from a large scale to a small scale, but I think most important for us today is to know the issues that are critically important to us as local citizens and to our state and then to our nation, and pick which things are most important to us and know them and communicate to our elected officials about how important they are. Also, I think aside from just elections, a little bit speaking to the immigration issue, is what are some of the local policies and rules that are in place that affect these issues that we could have some influence on. Sometimes simply when you look at counties and municipalities about permitting so that businesses can get started quicker and get things moving, maybe there are ways we can on a local level help advocate for simpler processes for permitting, or access to help for seniors who need aid. Sometimes there are lots of community organizations that provide that. It may not need federal legislation. We just may need to be better informed about them and have the ability to get to those organizations that provide it and know about those pots of money that are available. So I think it's the challenge of being better informed and then knowing what to do with that information. And I think in today's world, sometimes we're a little, we get inundated with information. So I think sorting through, but really being prepared for the elections that are coming up, because I think we're seeing more and more that they're just critically important to us, and we can't miss the moment. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Kim, Ardila-Morgan?
Yes, thank you again. I would follow along with Dr. Flannery's ideas, and also in terms of being more informed and involved with the groups that are working on these issues. And in particular, I just want to commend and mention the League of Women Voters, which has really taken the reins in terms of advocating and informing citizens and voters about election issues. And the wonderful thing about that organization is they focus on issues and not candidates. So it's a nonpartisan group that actually coming up, they have a legislative summit coming up in April. There is an advocacy seminar that they're going to be presenting. They have a speakers bureau and an election reform committee. So anyone who wants to be informed and aware and involved in the upcoming elections can take a great first step by connecting with them, as well as some of the other groups that are involved with the issues, the specific issues, but League of Women Voters, and they do accept men as members. So if you're interested, you don't have to feel like you're excluded. But I would suggest that, and just be aware, be listening, educate yourself, and come to or sponsor events like this where there's dialogue and conversation around the issues in a civil setting.
Great, and to follow up on that point, yes, there are some great local organizations working on these issues, and we wanted to hear from Mayor Abrams on this question as well. And then if we have time, then we can invite some more. Mayor Abrams, what can we do between now and 2014, 2016?
Well, Pablo, sometimes I think that everyone thinks there's only one election that occurs in November on a presidential year, and the only thing we vote on in this country is the President of the United States. And of course, you talk about midterm elections and general elections, are both general elections. And of course, I don't need to tell the folks in this room, you have the primaries that are run up to them. And in fact, by the way, Palm Beach County, our next election will be in 2014. It'll be next month when voters go out to vote in contested local races. And in 2015, when voters vote in contested local races. So I think first we have to get off the concept of an off year. Secondly, similarly with, we're talking about issues, federal budget, for example, or the state budget, when the reference is made toward out years of a budget. We should be measuring spending cuts by how much is being saved in 2014 and not in the years following after the campaign has already occurred. So I guess the short answer is we shouldn't consider these intervals between elections as gap periods. We certainly should not consider a gap between now and the next presidential election. I think we'll have a question later in the program about how we can get more people involved, and that's certainly a separate question, but even for those involved, should be engaged on a regular basis throughout.
What is the date of the Palm Beach County election?
March 12th.
March 7th, right, thanks. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Jennifer? Sorry.
I just wanted to say quickly, I think one small tangible thing we can do is make sure the young people in our family are involved in these discussions and that we talk about important issues, political issues, with our children and our grandchildren and young people, because we need to be building our next voting groups of people, and you can see where the voting numbers are really dropping off, and so somebody else isn't going to do that. That's a responsibility of all of us, and I think it's a good challenge to make sure that we're discussing things at the dinner table and that we're introducing them to forums and discussions so that they can make their own decisions, but we put that in front of them.
Yeah. Congressman Deutch, you wanted to add? Sorry.
That's exactly right. I would just add that looking around the room here, I see people here from lots of different groups, organizations, community groups, community forums, who work hard to turn people out to your meetings, and that's incredibly important. I would just suggest that to the extent that there is a line between what you do in all of those meetings and those of us who hold elected office, that wall, that line, it doesn't exist anymore. And just in terms of engagement, there are now so many ways for people to interact with their elected officials via email, phone calls, Facebook, Twitter, and all of them matter. And if you don't think that, I'm assuming this is true for the mayor, I know it's true for me, and I know it's true for most of my colleagues. If you don't think that members of Congress don't pay attention to their Twitter feeds to see what people are saying about them, then you're underestimating the power of new media. You should, to remain engaged, you should reach out to us all the time to let us know what you're thinking. There are some groups who are really good at it, the Raging Grannies being one, but I see in the room. But take advantage of all of the ways to get in touch with us. Don't wait until there's a town hall meeting or a campaign. Be involved, I think, for you and for us.
Great, Randy.
Please, for crying out loud, know what you're talking about. Know the basics, would you? Because I'll just cite one example that I'm sure Congressman Deutch would appreciate. We get people all the time going, when is Congress going to get in the Social Security system, just like the rest of us? Well, that happened about 30 years ago, actually.
Sorry, Randy, can you say that again?
There's plenty of comment. There's just not a whole lot of informed comment, and it really does help if you know what you're talking about. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Not hard to find out.
Question number 5. We're going to go a little bit out of order here. It's actually the 4th question, but 5th question on your list, panelists. The Tea Party and the Occupy Wall Street movement seem to suggest that people all along the political spectrum are frustrated with government. Why hasn't a more effective movement emerged from that frustration? And do we need one? Randy?
The reason a more effective third party has not emerged is because it is almost impossible for a third party to put together the infrastructure to run a national campaign. Remember that Steve Forbes spent about $80 billion of his 2 daughters' inheritance making 2 runs for president. Everybody thought, ooh, look, money and all like that, and he didn't get squat. If you look now at what is involved in campaigns, just take the Obama data mining machine that was based way apart from the campaign and wasn't even all that well known until the end to members of my profession. That takes a lot of money, and Ross Perot is the closest thing we've had in recent years. He led a national movement that probably has echoes today, but it's just very, very hard to do it. Occupy Wall Street, you're not going to really raise a whole lot of money there, and the Tea Party